So thank you, sir, for having this meeting, and I just wanted to talk to the directors for 5 minutes, and I have to go then for another meeting. I just wanted to say, of course, all the other points I'm sure our Honorable Minister will cover. But I don't see the leadership of AIIMS in the states. Look at Maharashtra. We are having huge, cases surging. We are having deaths. I don't see anywhere that AIIMS Nagpur is guiding the states, is taking up some action to ensure that there are less fatalities, have a hub of visual, create a platform where you can advise the clinical management practices of that state. So these are the kind of things where, AIIMS are actually expected to show leadership. Because you are the apex institute, you have the expertise, you are the highest form of tertiary hospital that we can have. So I don't see that leadership. I would expect all the AIIMS, wherever they are located, at least in that state, I would expect that even in neighboring states, you should offer your services of at least clinical management advice. Have local labs. I have created that in that it is also on the our AIIMS director side that in Delhi AIIMS that has been done, but at the disaggregated level, all AIIMS should take it up, because the states should feel that there is a value in having AIIMS in their state. That is one. Next thing is that you should be part of every trial that takes place in India. Arun is here, he looks after DCGI also. I am requesting him that whenever any new medicine or any new, like plasma treatment is going on, I don't know in how many AIIMS is plasma trial going on. Can you please tell me? I know, of course, AIIMS is doing it. Anybody else? None. Yes. Okay, good. So at least two. So actually every AIIMS should have applied for it. You can apply online to ICMR, and DCGI of course is allowing. So you must come forward for research, for consultation, and prove that you are an asset in whichever state or in whichever hub of states that you are. That is what I would expect, that kind of leadership from our AIIMS. Of course, you are doing the cases, your fatality rate should be nil. There should be no fatality in cases which are admitted there. So with these words, sir, I leave it to you, sir. I am sure that you will be guiding them. And I think there is some presentation also which these people are giving. Thank you.
This is Dr. Sanjeev Mishra. So just briefly the presentation for AIIMS Jodhpur. The number of isolation beds that we have is 360. And all the beds have got an oxygen supply. And in addition to 360, we've got 50 ICU beds which are there. And as of now, we've got 40 ventilators dedicated for the COVID beds. They've got testing lab facilities, and they're doing an average of 200 tests every day. The patients being treated in the COVID ward, till 27th of April, we had 361 admissions. Total COVID positive rate which have been admitted is 76, and negative cases discharged to date have been 325. This also includes the COVID positive which became negative and were discharged. And we've had one death due to COVID, and number of patients admitted currently COVID-19 positive, we've got 24 patients admitted. And COVID negative patients are 3, which is that those which have been tested negative, and report is awaited for 2 patients. The institution is part of the Solidarity Trial, which is sponsored by WHO and Indian Council of Medical Research. And we have recruited the first patient, and this is the first patient recruited in the country in the Solidarity Trial, which is from WHO and ICMR. And as far as the HR goes, we have got all the faculties trained in hospital infection practices, and we trained 175 residents who are trained in ventilatory and oxygen therapy and non-ventilatory care. All the residents, all housekeeping, all nurses have been trained in good hospital practices and infection control practices. And and the possibility of increasing beds. As of now, we have 410, and they can be increased to 500. The issue about the difficulty constraint being faced, it's the availability of the RNA extraction kits and the viral transport media, that shortage of that is there. And we don't have an automatic RNA extraction system. We have ordered that, it's in the pipeline. And sir, the last point about suggestions, it's about the regular availability of testing kits. The PP kits has been addressed by the ministry and through the HLF. And just a suggestion, sir, if it is fine to have additional financial remuneration to the healthcare workers involved in COVID management. So this is in brief our presentation from AIIMS Jodhpur.
Doctor, how many RT-PCR machines do you have? 200 tests per day is not very large.
Sir, we've got 3 machines. The issue is right now the kit, the RNA extraction kit, sir. We have the capability to do 500 tests, but the RNA extraction kit is the limiting factor, sir.
So you must talk to ICMR in that case and ensure that kits come to you, because as the numbers go up in Rajasthan, the numbers are quite high. So it will be very, very nice if you can test more. And secondly, yes.
We have tested around 2,500 samples till date, because we have been testing for the evacuees which were being tested in Jodhpur Air Force Base. So that was also a very large number that we have tested there.
And this is a general point for all AIIMS. You know, during a crisis, sometimes tempers run high, people have to work for long hours. And we often have complaints from RDAs and from nurses about some complaints that they have. Please maintain a very regular dialogue with them. It helps to talk. If communication lines are open, many things can be explained. So whether it's a question of rational use of PPEs or providing PPEs or N95 masks in non-COVID areas, etc., whatever kinds of problems they have, it is a very good idea to talk to them regularly at senior levels. And please ensure that their genuine demands are met, and wherever it's not possible to meet demands, things are explained to them so that unrest does not take place. In a potential crisis situation, if people stop working, that is catastrophic. So a regular dialogue has to be maintained with all the RDAs and the nurses and other staff associations. Sir, would you like to say something to Jodhpur, or should we move on to the next one? So next is AIIMS Raipur. Next slide.
Good afternoon, sir. So thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. We are working in very close conjunction with the state government over here, sir. And all the cases are basically, we have done almost 9,000 plus tests done over here, because that was the only lab till recently. Now they have got 2 more labs in the state. And we have 173 beds in the dedicated COVID block. We have diagnosed 37 patients positive so far, of whom 35 have been admitted in AIIMS Raipur, and 2 are under our treatment in other hospitals in the state. We have got 54 ICU beds, 15 ventilators with provision of 30 more. We have of course this testing lab, and we are already doing more than 500 tests a day. We've had a total of 266 patients, COVID, non-COVID, 35 are COVID positive. We've already discharged 230 who were negative. And more importantly, all the 32 have recovered in the state, and no mortality so far. 5 are still admitted who are COVID positive with us. So we have also trained the doctors, the nurses and the lab technicians in the state, and I think we have a very nice close relationship. Whenever, even when there were hotspots diagnosed, we were able to send our people along with the state government's team, and samples were collected, and large number of samples were sent to our lab, and whenever they tested positive, those patients were brought to AIIMS Raipur for the treatment. And so out of 37, 32 have been satisfactorily discharged according to the ICMR protocol of treatment, and only 5 are presently getting treatment. We are also part of the studies along with ICMR for the therapies, different therapies which are being tried out in these patients. Next slide please. We also have the senior residents, faculty members, nursing officers, they are deployed round the clock in terms of the HR management, and they all undergo proper training, including the various devices for use of PPE. There is a proper sensitization program which goes on, and they do this duty for 1 week and then they are quarantined for 2 weeks. And we are doing this quite successfully now for almost last 6 to 7 weeks now. We can increase the beds to 100 or even 200 more. Presently, I think we have been supported by the Central Ministry of Health and Welfare, Government of India, as well as the state government. So now the issue of PPE kits and testing kits is definitely sorted out, and we have a surplus as of now, but we have the possibility of increase or a surge in the number of cases in coming times. And with the state government, we told them that the milder cases can be treated in the periphery, and the more sick patients and the moderately sick patients or critical patients can be can be brought over here to AIIMS Raipur for their treatment. And once we are going to open up, I think it is also important because there are a large number of patients whom we are also treating through the teleconsultation. They also want to come and start getting treatment. Already patients of trauma, head injury, cancers, obstetrics, gynecology are all getting treatment in the non-COVID part of the hospital. But I think over a period of time, there are other non-COVID patients also waiting for their treatment. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Dr. Nagakar, what has been your experience out of the 37 patients that you had? How many had to go on a ventilator? How many went on oxygen?
We were very fortunate that most of these patients were the ones who were detected when they had come for screening after they had come from abroad, or when they were detected in the hotspot. There's a place called Kargora in Korba. So most of these patients fortunately had mild symptoms, that's number one. And number two, few patients were above 60 years of age with comorbidities. They had certain issues for a few days. But the younger patients with limited number of complaints and relatively having no comorbidities, they got treated much earlier.
So would you say that the percentage of patients who go on ventilator or go on oxygen is very low at the moment? Less than 3%?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's only when I think when we see a surge of those patients seeking treatment in the hospital for medical care. These were the ones who were actually picked up on screening, and they had come on RT-PCR as positive for COVID-19. But had they been symptomatic, they had stopped treatment, which is happening in the West, and those are the ones who actually. Then 80% of them still were mild, around 10 to 15% moderate and 5% critical. So fortunately that number has been quite less, but we don't know about the future. We need to be prepared for that at least.
Okay, Yusuf, we have ordered 60,000 ventilators, and most of these are very low-end ventilators which cost 1.5 lakh rupees or 4.5 lakh rupees. There are some high-end also which cost 18 lakh rupees or so. Now, we are asking all the state governments how many ventilators they need, and so far the response has been the sum total of the demand given by state governments adds up to around 18,000 ventilators. So we will have lots of ventilators with us, but most of them will be low-end ventilators costing 1.5 or 3.5, 4.5 lakh rupees. So in your AIIMS, would you have utility for these low-end ventilators also, or you would only be interested in high-end ventilators when we make allotments?
And preferably high-end ventilators because they are the ones which will be put to use in due course also. It won't just be only for this particular purpose, I think. But in the peripheral hospitals, you can still consider that. But I think for the tertiary hospitals, better to buy the high-end ones, which can be put to better usage in due course also.
Okay, so whenever we get them, we only give the high-end ones to AIIMS. That is the suggestion you have.
I think so that would possibly be better.
Okay, great. Sunil, आप आगे देना चाहेंगे? Next, Rishikesh. Rishikesh is next.
Hello, Dr. Ravikant. Dr. Ravikant.
Yes, sir. I can speak, sir.
Yeah, please.
So far we have created 100 beds for COVID area, out of which 75 were by oxygen, rest 25 are getting by the cylinders. The ICU beds were quite demarcated 15. And number of ventilators there are around 15. We have average capacity of test every day being 130, and we are trying to augment by increasing the automatic RNA extraction kit and a larger RT-PCR capacity, because right now the RT-PCR capacity is only 12. which has been set by the ICMR. We have seen roughly 200 plus patients with suspected COVID so far, out of which one was positive. Rest 4 which were diagnosed were taken by the state, because we have got a policy with the state that those who have got a mild symptom, they will be admitted either in the Dehradun or in the Haridwar, and serious patients will be coming to us. So negative patient discharge is 74, and we have still some reports awaiting, because there is a huge lot of patients coming from all over Uttarakhand to us in this area. In our HR arrangement, we are quite happy with our Department of Continuous Professional Development is focusing on it, and we are requesting that for the pending SR increase and pending JR increase seats, if that can be done, it will be very wonderful. We can increase the capacity to 337, and we hope that once these posts are increased, we can manage up to 250 ventilator patients at any given time. Our diagnostic capability needs to be increased, because RT-PCR capacity and RNA extraction capacity is at this time very limited, but I'm sure this will be sorted out soon. And there is an issue as to where the student and faculty and residents should stay after the place of stay. I'm sure it will be done, but at the same time, our team is doing very well on teleconsultation, which is almost 300 calls per day, and also involved in various new research trial along with ICMR and other authorities.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Ravikant. As a general point, because this point was raised by Dr. Ravikant earlier, and it reminds me that he had raised this, the standard staffing pattern, somehow it was approved in the CIB and there was mistakes in that. So now AIIMS Delhi has prepared a revised proposal. Because of the lockdown, we are not able to have a CIB meeting. But that is very, very critical, because we had spoken to finance department and they had agreed that once and for all they will look at the standard staffing pattern. Once that is approved, then on every individual file for every AIIMS they will not spend so much time and energy, and they will simply sanction posts as per the standard staffing pattern. So getting the standard staffing pattern approved is very crucial. Can I request Dr. Guleria to please send by email to all the members of the CIB the standard staffing pattern, and if they can confirm, then this can be done by circulation so that we can go to finance department with that proposal. Let us not wait for a meeting of the CIB, let us circulate to all the members. Everybody can check the figures and the calculations and then get back. And if everybody is agreeable, then we will take it as approved. Formally it can be approved later on in some meeting of the CIB. So Dr. Guleria, I'll request you to do that if that is possible. It will be very nice if it can be done.
Next page. JIPMER Puducherry. Dr. Agrawal.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. So we have 204 COVID beds. It's a separate block which have been constructed for another purpose but have not been activated because of shortage of staff. So we have created these beds there. We can go to 300 beds. The only reason we have 204 is that we have kept one floor for only suspected patients, so we can have only one patient in one room, and these are rooms for 3 to 4 patients each. But if need be, we can go up to 300. Of these, there are 71 beds are purely for isolation. As I said, that's a bigger ward, but we are putting one per room. There are 71 for confirmed patients. There are intermediate beds, and there are 22 ICU beds with 22 ventilators. We have capacity to go to about 45 ventilators. These will be moved from other parts of the hospital. We have identified those, but we have not moved those to this area. We can move those anytime. I had said this approximate number of 300 daily tests being carried out, but in the last 3 days we have done much better. We have gone to 370, and this is because we had received about 1300 specimens from Madhya Pradesh which could not be tested there, and because of that we are working round the clock, and we are doing 370 per day in the last 3 days. Our COVID facility started working on the 27th of January. In that we have had 234 admissions of suspected patients. Of these, none has been positive till date. These patients, 232, have been discharged from that facility, which does not mean they go out to the hospital. They go out of that hospital to the remaining part of the hospital where they are looked after, because there is no point keeping them in the COVID facility. Of the only 2 are presently located there. Rather, I should say 3 are currently there. 1 is COVID negative. For 2, the report was awaited. This was as at midnight last night. In addition, we are doing a trial on BCG. We have signed up for the trial on plasma with ICMR and also with a CSIR group that is planning to study. But I think we are going up with afterwards. Initially they approached us, after that came the ICMR proposal. But we haven't had any patients till now, so that's a bit of a challenge. We have an arrangement with the state government that mild cases will be looked after by the hospital of the state government and severe cases would come to us. So Puducherry has had only 7 cases, all asymptomatic or very mild symptomatic, and they have been seen by the other hospital, and they came from a surveillance rather than as cases. We have made videos which are on our website. We are circulating them to the neighboring states. We helped design a specimen collection booth, and that has actually been improved by others and is being used around the country. We are helping by validating the labs. So we have now got another lab in Pondicherry that we validated, and also several in Tamil Nadu and Andhra. We started last week on teleconsultations, so nearly 200 teleconsultations are being done. Right now they are purely tele, but in 3 or 4 days we intend asking those patients who may need to come to hospital after teleconsultation in a limited manner to get them to hospital. The emergency continues to function. Against our about 2,000 beds, we have about 600 beds are full at any time. We are doing about 20 emergency surgeries and about 20 to 25 deliveries for high-risk patients every day. As far as staff is concerned, we have JIPMER has chronically had a shortage of nurses and technicians, but I think right now, because the main hospital has only about 600 beds, we have adequate number of staff. For staff communication, I do a weekly meeting on teleconferencing with all the nurses who join in. There are about 270 to 80 who will join in, and same way separately for residents and faculty. It is due now. Maybe tomorrow or day after would be the next one. For the nurses and other staff, we put them on duty in the COVID ward for a week. During that period, if we permit them to go home, those of them who wish to stay, we are giving them accommodation in the hostel. But we don't have so much space that we can keep them after that. After that, they go home for a week and then they come back to duty. We do not have an automated RNA extraction system, but with the manual system also we have ramped up our capacity because it was needed. PPE, right now we are doing fairly well because we only have suspected cases, so our usage rate is low. We haven't had any confirmed cases, but as was mentioned earlier, in case of a surge, I think we would need to ramp up PPE availability. But we have worked with a lot of local people so as to make our own PPEs. We've made a lot of face shields of different types, and some of those are being printed on a 3D printer with IIT Chennai. So we are working in multiple areas. In general, things are fine, and if there are any specific questions, I would take. Possibly do with a few. They are sometimes useful in neurology for people who have muscle paralysis. So I think a few each one of us could do with, but mostly they would have to be high-end for institutions such as us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. I'd just like to raise a point here about the quality of PPEs which you source locally. At the country level, we are getting PPEs manufactured, and we are also importing PPEs. For the local ones, as you are aware, there are accredited labs where we get them tested, and blood penetration test is being performed. And UCC is given by the Ministry of Textiles, by the testing lab, etc. That UCC is supposed to be printed on every PPE which is supplied. There have been instances from states, we have received reports, that some PPEs are procured locally and they were not found to be of good quality later on. And now the states are saying that we had shown them in our stocks, but we are very sorry, we want to remove them from our stocks now because they are worthless. So when you or any other AIIMS is procuring PPEs locally, please do try to get them. There are 4 labs which are accredited right now by the Ministry of Textiles, CITRA and DRDE labs, and one ordnance factory, small arms factory lab in Kanpur. So please do try to get them tested at least once so that they get a UCC. They've passed the blood penetration test once and after that they can be used. For imported PPEs, of course, we are following EN 14126, ISO 13306 class 3 and above, or ISO 16604 class 2 and above. We are following that now. So if you are importing or arranging from some source which can import, then please follow those guidelines. For domestic ones, please get them tested in a DRDE or small arms factory lab or CITRA, Coimbatore. Without that, they might be useless and there might be complications later on. Yes, you want to say something, Dr. Agarwal?
Your point is absolutely valid. We also did encounter some of those issues. So what we have done is we've made sure that initially all this came in later. Very early on, we did not want to be caught napping, so we got some made. So we asked people to stitch one, give it to us. One can easily, splash water and whatever at that time we could do. So we did that, and now we are making sure that they are CITRA certified. And also we are working with the ordnance factory here, and that's in Chennai, close to Chennai, and they are going to supply us. So your point is absolutely valid, and we are taking care of it, and we will take care, as you said. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, I would just like to add to this that as of yesterday, there are 107 domestic manufacturers who have been approved and orders have been placed by HLL. Of them, about more than 40 have actually commenced production. And the domestic production yesterday was, Saturday, Sundays are slightly low in production, but otherwise the production is of the order of 1.3 lakh PPE gowns per day. That is the domestic production at the moment. And the orders we place abroad add up to about 1 crore PPEs. They have also started coming in gradually, and all the supply schedules are up to the 4th of June. So by the middle of June perhaps we'll have these 1 crore also, and in the meantime domestic orders also added to 1 crore. So we are in a reasonably comfortable position right now. Every day I happily allot more than 1 lakh PPEs to state governments, and some of the days I don't allot to state governments and allot to central institutions. So therefore there is no crisis right now of PPEs. If there is any problem and your local sources are not available, if you will drop an SOS, apart from saying that we need 1 lakh PPEs every month or some such flat requirement, if you say that, then I can't naturally do that. But if at any moment you are running short of PPEs and you send an SOS, it is quite easy now for us to allot 5,000-10,000 PPEs to any particular institution. That can be done. We are doing that. And as I said, we will get foreign sources also. So it is not so much of a crisis. You don't have to worry. You just have to tell us 3-4 days in advance if you are actually running out of PPEs. And then of course we will ask you how many patients you have and all that. It's not that you just, because states are saying right now that yes, you are sending PPEs. We have sent about 13 lakh PPEs so far to states and central institutions combined. So they are saying yes, we are getting them, we have for 3-4 days, but we don't have sufficient so that we can feel comfortable. So that feeling of being comfortable will come later on perhaps when we are flushed with PPEs. But as of now, people have PPEs for their own requirement. It is happening. Also, I would like to share with you, since this is a closed door meeting with all of you, the initial estimate is an empowered group 1 which is chaired by Dr. Paul. Dr. Guleria also is a member, he is sitting here, he will me out. Initially they gave 3 scenarios for the number of cases in the country, and they were based on doubling in 3.5 days, doubling in 5 days and doubling in 10 days. And we started preparing for the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario was that by the end of May, we will have a large number of cases, 50 lakh cases by the end of May. So that is the scenario we were working on for calculating requirements of PPEs, N95 masks, oxygen cylinders, everything. Now, very recently, yesterday, Empowered Group 1 has come out with revised projections based on what we've been able to achieve in the lockdowns. And as according to these revised estimates, they are saying that by the 15th of May, we will have 65,000 cases. And by the 30th of May, we'll have something like 1.5 lakh cases. And by 30th of June, we will have 11 lakh cases. So while earlier we were preparing for 50 lakh cases by the end of May, now we have on the horizon 11 lakh cases by the end of June. And again, these are worst case scenarios. We are not really saying this is going to happen. We are hoping this will not happen at all. But therefore, the requirement of PPEs and N95s, everything gets calibrated accordingly. If we were trying to get 2 crores by the end of May, now we can easily go for having 2 crores by the end of June or maybe sometime into August. Beyond that, the scenarios they have projected are quite scary, and that is on the assumption that things may go out of control. As I said, it's the worst case scenario. So there are very scary numbers also in that presentation. But until the 30th of June, they are mentioning 11.5 lakh cases. So things are somewhat under control as far as supplies are concerned.
Dr. Agrawal, I was wanting to make a point about the oxygen supply. As I see in the statement, out of 204 COVID beds, you have oxygen supply on 142. Oxygen supply is considered important in the overall patient care for moderate as well as severe. It is considered better that oxygen is provided right from the early stages before the cases turn severe and a patient has to be taken to the ventilator. So, will it be possible for you to make arrangement and what you could be doing to make 100% of your beds having supply of oxygen?
So these are where there is a piped gas supply. In addition, at other places it can be made available through cylinders. We have sufficient number of cylinders also in addition, and we have obtained more keeping that in mind. It was possible because we did consider getting the pipeline extended in this area, but doing construction while this gas pipe system is already operating is a bit of a problem. There is always a risk of fire, etc., and we did not want workers coming into the building when patients are already coming in. We don't know when a patient is positive, but we have arranged cylinders for the many beds.
So you will have cylinders for supply of oxygen at all the beds that you have provided?
Nearly all the beds, sir. Maybe a few no, but we already out of 204 we have in 142 beds we already have.
We are procuring.
And others?
Yes, we are procuring 1 lakh oxygen cylinders also of type B and D, jumbo size and small size. Normally, oxygen cylinders are owned by oxygen manufacturing companies, not by the consumers, because we purchase only oxygen, not the cylinder. But we are procuring 1 lakh cylinders. Would any AIIMS be interested in getting oxygen cylinders also? Would any AIIMS want to have oxygen cylinders given to them? We are procuring 1 lakh cylinders. If anybody is interested, we would like to know. Raipur, yes.
Raipur.
How many cylinders do you want?
These type cylinders 54 for AIIMS Raipur, sir.
Okay. So you can calculate whatever number of cylinders you want, jumbo size and small size, and send that to Sunil. We'll compile that. Of the 1 lakh we are procuring, so far we have allocated only 44,000. And the remaining 56,000 have not been allocated. So if you send your demands, we will be happy to give cylinders to you.
I may add here that you should make an attempt to have more of jumbo type cylinders, because one would expect a greater availability of jumbo, that is D type cylinders in the country. So while assessing your demand, you focus on the D type primarily.
So let's move on to the next.
Next we take AIIMS Delhi now. Dr. Guleria.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me? So I'll just give you the update of AIIMS Delhi. AIIMS Delhi has basically divided itself into three broad areas, and one is NCI, which is the National Cancer Institute, which we have looked at from COVID point of view, and the Honorable Minister had visited this a few weeks ago. This has 350 isolation beds which are being used. Number of beds with oxygen supply there is 40, number of ICU beds are 25, and we have 39 ventilators out there. We have also converted our trauma center, which is basically the main hospital, which is in this side. The trauma center has now been converted into the COVID hospital, which has 26 isolation beds, 136 beds with oxygen supply, and 47 ICU beds and 85 ventilators. We had a building behind that, and this was visited by the Honorable Minister yesterday, which was the Burns and Plastic Surgery Center, which was going to come up over the next 6 months. But we had expedited that in terms of making it ready. The ground floor is ready, which is going to be predominantly used as a COVID screening area. It has 70 isolation beds. Number of beds with oxygen supply will also be 70, and it will be 30 ICU beds, and we have 9 ventilators out there. Regarding the number of patients who have been treated in the COVID area, till date we have a total of 389 admissions, and we have had 301 COVID positive patients who have come to our hospital. Negative cases we have covered and have been discharged 114, and we've had 7 people who have died. All of them have had comorbidities relating to multiple myeloma and other chronic diseases. One patient was on dialysis also. Currently we have 260 patients who are currently admitted, out of which COVID positive patients are 127. And COVID negative patients who have now become negative but who were positive are 132. They are now from one group, and they're waiting to be sent home, and we're collaborating with the Delhi government to really have them sent home, because they have to go as a group because of the way they have come. We have done as of now 3,200 tests as far as our lab is concerned. The number of tests varies from 80 to 180 to 200 tests per day. And this is basically the type of testing that we have been doing. We've also started doing a lot of research activities. Somewhere around 20th of March, AIIMS had given a call for its own faculty for a research proposal. We had asked for intramural research projects, and we got more than 80 grants, research proposals which were given by AIIMS faculty. We are funding from our own funds 49 of these, which have already started. We are also part of the ICMR trial and trial by CSR and by Biocon, which is trying an anti-inflammatory drug which is against cytokines. We've also been actively involved as far as academic activities are concerned. The SET facility is regularly doing webinars which are also put up on the ministry's website for doctors and for nurses. These have become very popular, and the number of hits are huge. We've also made multiple videos for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, basically from various activities, from stigma to the infection control measures, and these have also been made for the ministry. We are also regularly doing teleconsultations. The minister had a few weeks ago inaugurated our Connect Center. This is a center which is basically manned by doctors who are basically people in pulmonary medicine, critical care and anesthesia and infectious diseases. They are providing support to doctors from various parts of the country who are managing COVID patients, whether it be in the ward or whether in the ICU, and we are able to provide them some support in terms of how to manage these patients, what they can do. So this center is also functioning. We have done this in our guest house. So the guest house has become like a call center. We use the guest house because doctors can then sleep in the rooms out there, and then they are available 24/7 for any telephone call which comes. There is also a facility for video conferencing. This is connected to many medical colleges, more than 50 medical colleges, and it is basically a web-based and telephone-based service that we are already providing. We are also cognizant of the fact that we need to really look after our non-COVID patients also. So we are regularly now having an appointment system which is open, and teleconsultations are being done by all departments for non-COVID patients as of now. So these are the activities that we are doing. As far as the discussion point, as far as HR is concerned, our hospital infection control team is regularly for more than a month training the entire staff, and this includes doctors, residents, nurses, the karamcharis, even the guards, as far as infection control is concerned. And this is being done regularly to make sure that no matter where they are, if they have a possibility of coming close to a COVID suspect patient, proper infection control measures are taken. We can increase our facilities as far as MCI Jhajjar is concerned. The only issue, of course, becomes having enough staff to be able to run the critical care facilities, because human resources will become an issue when we're running both the non-COVID hospital and the COVID hospital. We have to balance the two things, because, as I said, we are still trying to make sure that the non-COVID patients also do not suffer. There is what are the constraints that we're facing is, I think we need to really work a lot on allaying fears of healthcare workers. All healthcare workers, especially those who are working in divisions like surgery and radiology, are demanding that all patients who come before they do their surgery or do the CT scan should be tested, and that is increasing the load for getting unnecessary testing done. The other issue is that we need to, at some point in time, take a call on what are we going to do with our asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic patients. As of now, we're admitting them all, and we have a huge number, almost more than 100 in MCI Jhajjar. If at some point in time a decision is taken, then they can quarantine themselves at home or an institutional quarantine facility, then the load on the hospital will actually come down. So that is a call which needs to be taken, but otherwise, more or less, we are operational. We could increase our bed strength substantially if it is required in May and June. So this is all that I had. Any questions, I will be very happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Valeria. You mentioned this, and I must acknowledge the excellent contribution made by AIIMS Delhi in developing training material and IEC material. Wonderful, the quality was very, very good, and they've been using them all over the place, everywhere in the entire country. Now we are going to launch a major campaign against stigma. The problem we are facing today is that people are so terrified of this disease that it is out of fear that they misbehave with health workers and with patients and their families. So a major campaign for stigma has to be undertaken. We have had a meeting with the development partners, and we have all agreed on some activities to be taken up by each. But because AIIMS has been developing very wonderful videos and training material, I would request you to kindly focus on this aspect now. This is a marathon, it's not a sprint. It will not be over in a month or so. People have some magical expectations after the lockdown is over, everything will be alright. It will not happen like that. We have flattened the curve, and there are more than 300 districts in India where there is not a single infection has taken place. So there is no question of having immunity in those areas. So the disease will be there for some time to come. Viruses don't go away, and we live with chickenpox, we live with malaria, we live with dengue, we live with all kinds of ailments. This particular disease is not very fatal as far as can be made out right now, and the need for ventilator oxygen support also is quite low. In 80% cases, the symptoms are very mild. So the irrational fear of this disease, because it was a global outbreak, needs to go away. People have to behave normally. They have to somehow learn to live with this disease. It is not like HIV/AIDS where you have to live with HIV for the rest of your lives. People get COVID and they get cured. It is over after that. So some now information, education, awareness material has to be prepared to take the stigma and the terror out of this disease. People don't have to be terrorized. They need to take precautions, but they can't be terrorized. So we have an excellent team in AIIMS Delhi. I'll request you to kindly focus on this. The second thing you mentioned was about mild symptoms, mildly symptomatic cases. I believe there's an advisory being prepared now that mildly symptomatic cases will be home quarantined. But that has to be fine-tuned. It is going to come out soon. Another advisory which you were working on with DGHS is about reuse of PPEs. Now, reuse of PPEs and N95 masks is something, if it can be done, it will be a welcome idea. So I have requested DGHS also today to get it finalized very quickly. There were some minor points which had to be clarified. So we can get them clarified telephonically and then quickly finalize the advisory. Parallelly, the BARC has done some tests with cobalt radiation. So they are saying that also has been found to be useful. So we have requested Tata Memorial Hospital to develop an advisory on reuse of PPEs using cobalt radiation. So that will come separately, and your advisory will come separately. We host both of them. So please finalize your advisory quickly. Yes, you want to say something? Please carry on.
Yes, so, regarding the stigma issue, we're already working on that. We started taking the videos from patients who have recovered, trying to really reassure the public that they have become all right and they need not worry. We've started doing that in NCI Jhajjar, and we will compile that and then make a good video of like we've done in the past as far as the stigma issue is concerned. I do agree this is a huge issue and may be also contributing to increasing mortality in certain areas because patients are reporting late. We've also done this research project. One of our team has done a project on looking at reuse of PPEs in a very scientific manner, using them, infecting these PPEs with various bacteria, spores, running it through in various cycles. They've done almost 6 cycles and then shown that the PPE gets totally disinfected and the material is also of good quality of the material does not suffer. They have shared this presentation with the scientific study that they've done with the DGHS. We will follow this up and come up with an advisory of how one can use it. It's a simple method and it can be done, and I think that will help in a long way. We have already started developing this strategy both in the main hospital, in trauma center and in NCI Jhajjar, where we are trying to see how we can reuse our PPEs if there is an acute shortage in the near future. So we're already working on that.
Thank you very much. Just keep in mind that a hospital which has PPEs may have any kind of fabric. They would not really know. There are some coated fabrics, there are all kinds of fabrics which are being used. So the advisory has to be very clear in explaining to the hospital how they will identify the material that they have, because for every material the same kind of treatment may not be useful. So they have to identify what they have, so that also has to be part of the advisory. And the second thing I requested you was about the standard staffing pattern. Please send it to everybody by email. We need to clear that.
Yes, standard staffing pattern will send by tomorrow. The PPE that we used was the DRDO one and the Tyvek suits. We can do this same experiment on the other PPEs which come in to just see what is the utility of using them. But the study was done basically using these two.
Thank you. Next one.
Next, Bhubaneswar, Dr. Gitanjali.
Bhubaneswar, Dr.
Yes,
Gitanjali.
sir. So, and in AIIMS Bhubaneswar, we have at the moment we have 182 beds which we have created for isolation, and we have 20 ICU beds with 20 ventilators which are kept ready. We have had 175 admissions till date, out of which 3 of them were COVID-19 positive. We are at the moment we are also doing testing for COVID-19, and we have done about 1,550 tests so far. We are also handholding the other institutions in Odisha and in West Bengal for improving COVID-19 testing facilities. So where that is going in Odisha, at least we have been able to give permission for at least another 3 centers to test, and within this week we will have at least another 3 also which we will be approving. So that is the positive part which is happening in Odisha state. We are in very close contact with the state health secretary as well as with the other players who are involved, and they are in touch with us, and we also, there is a reciprocal relationship where we help each other. So in that sense, we are right now. We can increase another 50 beds if necessary. We had ordered about 40 ventilators in November of last year, which we are expecting. So we really don't need that many, but another 50 it should not be very low quality ventilators which we need, because here I would say we are having the patients who require the ventilatory support are only coming here because as you know, Odisha state, they already have about 5,000 beds for COVID-19 patients. So we are also doing some training. If you look at the HR thing which we are doing training at various levels and trying to motivate especially our workers to come to work and all that. We are also doing some videos and web casting for the SAARC countries. There was a request that, so we have produced some videos, especially for Bangladesh. They wanted only in Bengali, so we have got our faculty who can speak Bengali to do that for them. And I would say that maybe the only little bit of difficulty which we face is again linked to this question of stigma which has come in, because we are getting a lot of patients being brought in dead, and the relatives say that they want a certificate to say that that patient is COVID-19 negative, because they are refusing to cremate or bury the dead person. So this is creating a little bit of a problem, but which we are talking with the state also on this. So I think otherwise we are okay for now, and that's it from my side.
Thank you very much. Ames Patla.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Infrastructure which has been created so far for the COVID patients is we have total 180 beds, and which includes 10 ICU beds and isolation beds 95 and isolation for COVID patients 75. We have around 49 ventilators with us, which are being used for the COVID ICU as well as for the other ICU which we are running. As far as the kits and the 95 masks is concerned, we have around 6,000 to 4,000 so far. With us, that's a sufficient stock for us to run at least for 10 days. As far as the patients which we have treated, in our flu clinic there are around 2,000 patients who visited us since 22nd March. Out of which we admitted 175, and there were 7 positive out of it and 168 were the negative ones. Out of the positive, we discharged 1 patient, we had 2 deaths, and we have 4 patients admitted with us. Out of the COVID negative patients, 137 were discharged, 7 deaths, and we have around 25 patients still with us. On the left side, we started the RT-PCR investigation from 15th of April. We have done so far 357 tests, and we have been allotted around 7 districts by the Bihar government to take care of all those 8 patients from those districts for the lab testing. We have reported around 3 patients positive so far. This is all about the infrastructure and what we have been able to do as far as the treatment of COVID patient is concerned. We have applied for plasma therapy to the NCMR, awaiting the response, and we are doing also for non-COVID patients teleconsultations. Around so far 600 to 700 patients have already consulted with us.
Hello.
Dr.
So we have a number of isolation beds, 216, and out of these 206 are with the oxygen supply. We have 30 ICU beds, and all are with ventilators. Of course, we have the laboratory, which is regional virology diagnostic and research laboratory, and we are on average we are doing about 300 tests on a day. Total patients admitted so far are 161. Of these, 72 were COVID positive and others were COVID negative. After becoming positive, 11 patients they were discharged, and of course one was a patient who relapsed after 10 days of becoming negative. So that was there. Total fatality, we have 5 patients who died, But of these, actually 4 patients died after admission, 1 patient was brought dead, and later on, because as Director Bhubaneswar also said, sometimes the relatives, they want the certification for them, and that was the reason that proactively we did the test, and the patient was found to be COVID positive. Most of these patients, they were having comorbidity. Mainly they were the gas victims of the MIC. Only one patient was he was a doctor, and he was having again comorbidity of hypertension and stroke and diabetes. Right now we are having 42 patients admitted. 38 are COVID positive, and 4 are either report is awaited or they are in the suspected category. 14 patients were those who were from the Directorate of Health, and they preferred to, after they were admitted, and they preferred to go to a private hospital. So that is the thing. Next slide, can I have, please? So this is the, our laboratory. So far we have done more than 7,800 samples processed, and 424 were rejected, and 6,110 were negative, and 340 were positive. Next, please. So only constant we are having. Next slide, please. So constant we are having one. Obviously, we can. State government is asking us to mentor all the medical college in the state, and I need to little bit. Next slide. So we want to upscale the laboratory services. For that, we are asking for the automated RNA extraction machine, the ventilators. As already said, we are still waiting for that. That is probably the requirement from our side, and we need laboratory technicians. I think one slide is missing, but anyway, that is all right.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you. Can we move on to Nagpur now? General Datta?
Yeah.
First of all, good afternoon everybody. This is just to tell you that the OPD at AIIMS Nagpur has just started about 7 months back, and the IPD is still under construction and it is not functional. So we have got 5 floors of the OPD block, and we have opened up the isolation ward, etc., and the COVID ward, whatever we could. With the number of beds that I had, they were 100. So the number of isolation beds that we have created on the 5th floor is 64, and the number of beds with oxygen supply is 24. This has got piped oxygen, and the number of ICU beds we have created is 5. Number of ventilators that we have at present is 2, and we have asked for at least 6 more. And the lab that we just opened up the COVID diagnostic lab on the 3rd of April, and ours was the only lab functioning in Nagpur for at least 5-6 days. The other lab which was functioning, their equipment went out of order. So we were the only lab for at least 6 days when AIIMS Nagpur was giving the report for the COVID. And it was a real boom. The press has really patted our back for that. Apart from that, the average number of tests which are being carried out with one RT-PCR machine is around 100. Well, in addition to all this, that I would just like to put across that we have also, ma'am has just said that possibly we have been a little low profile in not passing on this information. So I would like to highlight this, that at AIIMS Nagpur we have opened up a helpline in which we get calls for all this mental health counseling, the stigmas, the various queries. We have opened up a helpline for that. We have done webinars for all the doctors in the state as such, whether it be even from outside. And the faculty from our hospital, since we are not able to contribute so much because we don't have an IPD, faculty from here in the ENT department is being sent to the local government colleges with the help of the divisional commissioner. We are coordinating with him, and the ENT specialists are taking the swabs there, and the chair after that is coming to us. In addition, the ENT specialists in this hospital, AIIMS Nagpur as such, are also taking the swabs. In addition, there has been basic life-saving skills, how to don the PPE, etc., and the other procedures for the infection control. They are all being practiced and sort of disseminated to all the non-medical staff per se. In fact, some of the patients also come there and they sit down and they listen. It is actually a pat on our back. And secondly, the non-COVID, I have developed a small 10-bedded non-COVID ward downstairs on the ground floor in which we manage the other non-COVID patients, and I assure you I get at least 2 to 3 patients in that also for admission in that also. Apart from that, we give the press release for the number of tests that we are doing every day. Till now, since 3rd April, we have received a total of 2,142 samples for COVID diagnosis. And apart from all this, we have established 7 labs which are under this mentoring that we have been allotted by the ICMR. Now, the broad arrangement for HR has just actually told most of the things. And we have, in addition to all this, I would also like to highlight that we have right at the entry of the OPD, we have a triad screening center, etc. for the COVID. And we also have audio announcements, education display boards and posters. The patients quite often stand and they listen to all this. And the number of beds that we can increase up to 25 more in case if required. And the only thing is that we are facing basically a lack of adequate nursing staff. Our interviews have been, CBTs have been done, everything has been done. We are just waiting to give them the call letters so that the nursing officers can arrive over here. Now that is a handicap with us, that we have got very little nursing staff. And that is all that I have to say.
So why are you not able to issue the call letters or emails?
We can issue the call letters, but then will they be able to come during lockdown?
Many of them would be local?
Maybe, yes.
So at least
we can issue the call letters?
Yes. Issue to all of them.
Okay, then
the
we
local ones will come and join and the others will come as soon as they can. There is no problem in issuing the call letters. And secondly, I think with one RT-PCR machine, you should be able to test more than 100 samples a day.
We don't get more than that. We don't get, now there are at least 5 labs which have come up in Nagpur. So the samples are all distributed to the 5 labs. So we don't get more than 132, 120, not more than that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now last but not the least, Dr. Jagat Ram, PGI Chandigarh.
Yeah, good evening. We have in PGI isolation ward dedicated COVID block, Nehru Hospital Extension Center, which is 200 bedded center. All that have oxygen supply, and we have at present 15 ICU beds and 15 ventilators. We are extending this 15 center, and on the average, only 200 tests are done for COVID. Total of tests done so far is 3,280, and the PGI is mentoring 31 institutes of Northern India. Out of them, 9 are already mentored for using the COVID testing facilities. COVID ward, we had so far 611 patients, and out of them, COVID positive was 37. Negative cases discharged till date are 10. That till date was 6. None of the patients from considered either the severe acute patient. Three from Punjab, 2 from Haryana, and 1 from Himachal. Number of patients currently admitted in the ward are 7. We are expecting the more patients by today evening, positive patients by evening, and at present COVID negative patients are 3, which they discharge tomorrow. Till date, they are not admitting at present mild, moderate, or any of the severe patient, but they promised us that they will admit these mild patients because our tertiary care facilities is fully loaded with these isolation and COVID positive patients. So there is some problem for the non-COVID emergency patients. This is so far there, and we have some testing kits from ICMR. We need more testing kits. and training of the Northern India 31 center that will help to open up more center. Nine already trained, so they are fully trained, so they can open up. They can start the facilities at their center. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues. I am happy that I could hear directors from AIIMS New Delhi, Jodhpur, AIIMS Raipur, AIIMS Rishikesh, AIIMS Bhubaneswar, AIIMS Patna, AIIMS Bhopal, AIIMS Nagpur, and also Jipmer Puducherry, and finally PGI Chandigarh. So thank you for being here. I don't want to give any long, speech or instructions or anything. I just wanted to, in fact, meet you through this video conference and just have a feel of what's actually happening inside our AIIMS. So it was heartening to know whatever has been done there, like preparation for all these beds and testings, etc., and then some future planning also. And I could visualize that if there is a need, we can improve upon our strength also in terms of our beds and other facilities for testing, etc. So at a personal level, I don't actually believe with what the numbers are being projected by our experts at the academic level, because whatever they had projected, even the experts within our country and also some experts had come from outside the country also. So they projected huge numbers which ran into millions in April itself. So all that has been proved wrong, because everything cannot be calculated with a mathematical projection. This is what I have always felt working in the field of health for almost 4 or 5 decades. But God forbid if we have those unfortunate situations, and if we have those numbers which are being projected by our experts, we should have the preparation. So that's why we are preparing, and we have prepared ourselves for the worst also. Thankfully, our own experts have also revised their future projections now. But in any case, we have to keep ourselves prepared for the worst situation. The idea why I wanted to talk to you was, you are all aware of what's actually happening about COVID now. You all know that it's a new virus. You are all aware that this virus started its journey from China, and it has now traveled almost through every country and is still present in all the countries all across the world. A few may be exceptions, but broadly it is there in over 215 countries or so. And it is not the first time that a virus has come and in a way attacked human beings, right from the days of smallpox and many other viruses that we have seen over the years. And whenever a virus comes, there is so much of fear and panic and all. You all remember that when the HIV virus came, the whole world was like frightened. I remember a conference that I had attended in '94 in Bangkok, where there were participation from all the developed countries and all, and even countries like America were so frightened by the HIV. But with passage of time, we have been able to ultimately handle HIV also. And it's only smallpox and polio that we have been able to eradicate in this world. But rest of the viruses, whenever they have come, they have continued to stay. They have created some sort of havoc during their initial appearance. So I think that's the way this virus is also going to have its future journey. Right now, because of its high level of infectivity, we are and the way it has come first time and the way so fast it has moved to the whole world and is causing so much of havoc in even the developed countries. So that's why there is so much of you can say panic and fear about the whole virus. But fortunately in India we are the ones who have started recognizing this virus from the day one. You all know that 7th of January was the day when China had declared to the WHO about this virus, new coronavirus. And in this ministry itself, we had our first expert group meeting on 8th of January. And 17th of January, we started with all the planning about giving all the health preparedness guidelines to all the states, starting our community surveillance and also starting giving advisories to airlines and travel advisories to people inside the country, outside the country, who should come, who should not go outside, etc., etc. And then it was like throughout a preemptive and a proactive, graded sort of response to the whole thing right from the day one. And then ultimately, you remember that we blocked all the international travel outside, inside. We did not allow after 19th of March any flight to come inside. And the last passenger that came into India was on 23rd of March. And since then, a number of other proactive steps like this, Janta curfew and the likes of this lockdown 1, lockdown 2. Now this tenure of the lockdown 2 is also finishing on 3rd of May. So we have been very, very proactively working towards, and the whole country as a whole has participated with, very jointly we have been fighting the virus. Within the government also, it's not only the health ministry, but it's a total government approach. Everybody right from the top to the bottom is deeply engaged in it. Even our, you can say the grassroots ASHA worker is also so sincerely helping the cause in many states, going house to house and searching actively cases of probable cases of coronavirus. So it's a very, very, I think, beautiful experience that we have all, although it's in unfortunate circumstances and it's not so happy experience to be seeing patients suffering their admissions and then they infecting others, and then health workers, our doctors and others getting the disease also, and then around all this so much of stigma for the patients also, for the health workers and the doctors also. So there have been very negative aspects of the whole issue also. But the good thing is that considering any parameter that we are probably placed at literally at almost number one in the whole world in terms of our approach that we have adopted and the outcome of that approach, whether it is the number of cases that have been infected or whether it is the mortality rate, whether it is the recovery rate, or whether it is every day I review in the evening how many patients were on ventilators in the country today, how many were on oxygen, how many were in ICU. And today also, just now I got the message for the last 24 hours is just about 0.0 0.35% patients were on ventilator. Today, only 1.25% patients were on oxygen, and then only 2.45% patients were in ICU. So that and the very fact that we have a good recovery rate also is almost 22%. Over 6,000 patients have already got out of the hospitals. This also again speaks volumes about the type of care that we have been able to provide to our patients, and also about the early diagnosis and early, you would say, admission to the hospitals. Most of the places where the mortality rates have been high, the people say that it's because of late admissions and all. And then most of these patients have been the ones with the comorbidities. Unfortunately, that's why we have been impressing upon everyone time and again that we need to care more about our elderly people. So the idea of calling you all is, you all know that the whole country right now is very clear that where is our enemy right now. What are the places, what are the districts, what are the blocks, and what are the houses and the patients who are infected with corona now. So over 300, around 300 districts in the country are this number keeps going up and down a bit, but they remain unaffected. And then there's around the same number is the ones which are non-hotspot districts where we have very few cases, maybe minimal cases, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then of course maybe around 130 odd districts where we are calling them as hotspots. And overall, I was just looking at the data today that last 7 days, 69 districts haven't reported a case, 44 districts have not reported a case in last 14 days, and 40 districts have not reported a case in 21 days, and then 16 districts have not reported a case in last 28 days. Pre-lockdown, we had this doubling rate of 3 days or so, but now it's almost 9.5 to 10. That's the doubling rate. Whether it is you calculate it for 3 days or 7 days or 14 days, it ranges between 8 to 10. That's the latest situation. And the point that I want to, and then of course you have all these dedicated COVID centers, dedicated hospitals, all those are ready now. We have enough of preparation done, whether it is for ventilators, although the number of ventilators which are being needed is very, very minimal, but still we are preparing for the, and you have just now heard the Special Secretary talking to you. Do you really need a ventilator? Do you need more ventilators? These are the 2 types of ventilators that you have. Which one do you want? So we have prepared, we have made arrangements for this one, but we don't have a demand for that much, because it's not only the ventilator. People will also require people who actually know how to operate the ventilator properly. So we have now, there is hardly anything which is going to be, in terms of logistics, which is going to be a problem for the country. We have over 108 manufacturers of PPEs, we have over 10 manufacturers of N95s in the country. Almost a lakh of them are being manufactured every day in the country right now, whether it is the drugs or other things. Everything is ready, but we don't want to use them. Right now, since we know where the enemy is, we have to basically, with a focused approach, where everybody is involved. And I strongly feel that the institutions like ours, the 10 institutions with whom I am talking right now, they are the ones who have to now proactively, we have a very integrated, very robust integrated disease surveillance system program in the country. You know, we have our surveillance officers in the districts. We have also had interaction with all the people in the field belonging to WHO and other UN organizations. I did a video conferencing with almost at 1600 places with them in the country. So we have all put them in action. We have the so-called rapid response teams with 1 or 2 people from the medical colleges. But I feel that since we know our problem right now, for us the diagnosis is clear, the extent of the disease is clear, we know how to kill or defeat the virus. We want that all of us, and more particularly institutions like AIIMS and the leadership there, the people there, they, without waiting, it's not, the AIIMS don't have to behave like routine institutions where they are like any other medical college or any other hospital. They are just admitting a few 100 patients and then doing a 120 tests, and then that's all about it. I think we have to, within say 50-100 kilometer area around us or whatever, we have to proactively define our role. We don't have to wait now, because you have to all get into the job of getting it all finished. And wherever you are, I think, because you see, you have seen yourself that till the time that should have actually come from the AIIMS. Till the time we assigned the job of asking you to proactively contact the medical colleges for getting the facilities started for the creation of the lab testing facilities. And once we gave you that responsibility, you also tried to contact the medical colleges, and within no time we could ramp up our, augment all our facilities for lab testing. Today we have a capacity of 55,000 tests per day, and we are almost doing 40-45,000 tests in a day. And we have plans to take this capacity up to 1 lakh tests by 31st of May. And maybe I think if all of you become a little more active about it, because the government is very clear that if we have to create the facility, whatever we need for that, we have given enough of money to the states, we have given them enough of, liberty within the National Health Mission, also within the disaster management activities. They can use funds from anywhere. And the government is very clear that we do not want the country to suffer at any cost. So, two things that I want you to right now take up is that the testing thing you had taken up. But for finishing this job in these hotspots, there is a well-defined strategy. We are wanting these hotspots, which are like, we say these are the red zones. We want to take them to the orange zone. So a hotspot district, if it doesn't have a case for 14 days, it goes into the orange zone. If it doesn't have a case further for 14 days, it goes into the green zone. And that's what we want the whole country to go into the green zone. We know that we may not be able to sort of eradicate the COVID virus like we could do for smallpox and polio, but of course we have to contain it, and then like any other virus, it has to be treated like any other virus illness. Like we sometimes have cases of swine flu, or we sometimes get these Ebola outbreaks, of course not in India, but in some 1, 2, 3 countries here and there. So it will also become like that. And the good thing that is being talked about is now is that the new normal of behavior that is getting developed because of COVID, if it stays post-COVID also, which it will have to for at least some time, this will, I think, be a great blessing in disguise for many of our health programs, because it's not that social distancing is helping us only for COVID, it's going to help us for many other communicable diseases. And people had started forgetting the importance of communicable diseases, and everybody used to start talking about the non-communicable diseases. So now the people will appreciate that we can't afford to forget the communicable diseases. They will keep coming, and they have to be given good quality attention. So I don't want to allot you, but I want each institution like you to proactively take up a very strong, powerful role. Don't wait for any of your state governments to talk to you. Don't wait for your central government. You have all the data. Have access to the data. Take up some 100, 200 kilometers area around you. Get into active contact with the medical profession. And then, of course, as was mentioned, today this stigma issue is a very, very big issue. Only with some statements here and there, we keep talking about it at number of forums. But you see, every now and then there are so many. Today itself there was an unfortunate case in Bangalore where a patient of COVID committed suicide. I think from 5th floor he had, I think, jumped and all. I remember a couple of weeks back, similarly a suspected COVID patient had done the same thing in probably in RML Hospital, New Delhi, and a lot of things are happening. So, but AIIMS being the institutions where the people have extraordinary faith from the core of their heart towards AIIMS and the doctors who work in AIIMS. So you all who work in AIIMS, not only as directors but with your esteemed faculty members, your students, your other colleagues, you have to take the leadership role within your own states and see that, because when you will take up that role, this stigma thing will go forever, because this we will be able to control COVID, but if as a remnant the stigma thing remains in the society, it is going to be a big, I think, not only a curse, but it will become a big problem for managing COVID in future times also. It should not become, because this is COVID is probably the only virus which has come in recent times, which has unfortunately got this stigma thing associated with it. So I would like all of you to be actively involved in the strategy. It's not that you wait for any strategy that we will give you. You are all intelligent enough within your states and areas where you deliver services to the people. You have to devise local strategies, and with the coordination from state governments, health officials there, see how this thing actually is eliminated or it is crushed in the minds of the people, because this is growing like a big problem for us, and we were worried about the stigma that the doctors have started facing, the ostracization of the doctors, but the stigma that is associated with the patients also, and the way they are being behaved with by their own family members and others in the society, that's a very, very serious thing for all of us to ponder and devise a real strategy. We have to see how with a great amount of compassion we can basically work for this cause and develop the same amount of compassion in the society. One more thing that I want to highlight today is that you see, there are so many queries and so many everyday unanswered questions, and even today every day I get so many complaints, and every day I have to pick up the phone and talk to medical superintendents and directors all over the country. I have to myself talk to them. because even now the patients, whether it is a COVID patient or a non-COVID patient, a lot of them when they go to the hospital, they are being turned away. Yesterday I give you a latest example of yesterday evening when a full-term pregnant woman, she goes to the emergency of a leading hospital in Delhi, and her amniotic sac has burst. She is bleeding, and she is being even at that stage she is being turned away to another nearby hospital, and then she writes, then she calls, and then somebody says, you please write on the COVID India Seva. You see, 4 days back only I started this in the health ministry with the help of Twitter, a COVID India Seva, which has already got some 16,000 followers in last 2-3 days. And she writes on that COVID India Seva, and when we see that, immediately we get in touch with the officials here, with the medical superintendent of the hospital, and then because we got angry and annoyed, then only she got admission in the hospital. And this is happening every day at all the places all over. So I have to request you that please make sure that these are troubled times. People are in deep trouble. Not only the COVID patients, even our non-COVID patients are also in deep trouble. Many of these chronic illnesses are not being taken care of. In spite of repeated instructions, repeated guidelines, repeated meetings, they are being turned away, because this is at many places it has become a sort of a habit that to at least once try if the patient, if we can get rid of the patient. So that attitude, I think, if at all it is persisting anywhere in the country, and more particularly if it is persisting in AIIMS or institutions like this, or you have to become like, you see, role models for the other medical colleges and the other hospitals also, to sort of ensure that the patients all over the country are given the best possible, you see, treatment with full compassion and sympathetic attitude. That is right now the need of the hour. So we don't want to hear any complaints about that. And as I mentioned to you about this COVID India Seva that we have launched with the help of Twitter. Twitter had been very nice to us, that they are actively helping us. So we have a team of experts here, and which is guiding the volunteers of the COVID India Seva, because a lot of people put so many questions for issues all around the country. It's not only about Delhi, but they are issues related to all over the country, the problems that they face, the questions that they are like encountering in their day-to-day sufferings. So I would like all 10 of you, because right now you have 10 here, to nominate one good person who has, number one, good information about your systems around you and about the COVID disease also. So if there is a need, if there is something related to that particular state or particular city or particular AIIMS or wherever we feel that there is a need to talk to anyone from your side, who could give the right answers to the questions being posed on the COVID India Seva. So I would, my office and Mr. Arun Singhal will coordinate with all of you to give the name of at least 1 or 2 persons who could be called by any of our volunteers from COVID India Seva at any time, and they will just call you to seek answers to specific questions. They will be all most of them are already writing the answers themselves based on the guidelines and many other things. And then, but if we have a team of 10-15 good people represented by these AIIMS and PGI and JIPMER, so we will see that the COVID India Seva becomes more meaningful, and within no time we can answer the people from that respective region, because there are queries from all parts of the country now. So there is a need for a bigger team of experts from the whole part of the whole country, who could actually answer these COVID queries. So I think that's all about what I wanted to talk about. Now I have got so many data and all, but I don't want to get into those data. My idea is only that in the next few weeks, I want the aims everywhere to be to the introductory remark that was made by the Union Health Secretary. I think that was the crux for which I had called the meeting. I want aims to be very, very proactive now. Don't wait for any instruction. Your job is now to see that in your state, around your state, if you are one of those fortunate ones which are the unaffected districts, you have to make sure that they remain unaffected. And if you are the ones who are the hotspot ones, then you have to ensure that it is not the routine rapid response teams which are helping the cause of, you can say, elimination in the field or containment in the field, but it is the aims like institutions, the medical colleges, which are proactively helping these people in the field in some way or the other. You don't wait for any strategy which will come from some NCDC or something, but you have to step in at this stage. And I think if people like you will step in at this stage, I am pretty sure that in May we will certainly see the end of this devastating form of COVID. Ultimately, the COVID virus will remain there, you all know and we all know. But we want it to settle once and then let it remain sort of defunct like many other viruses. And by that time, the society will also learn to deal with the virus. Fortunately, we know in our country is just about 3% mortality, 80-90% people are getting cured themselves. But more than the danger of COVID, it is the panic of COVID, and it is the stigma around COVID, and the way even the developed countries have lost lakhs of people in COVID, which is creating this sort of a horror story about COVID. We don't want this story to remain like that. We want everyone to appreciate that our doctors and our senior people have worked wonders, and they have ensured that when most of the developed countries could not do so well, India, with all its vast resources, its manpower, its intellectual acumen, and the great, capability, has been able to do something extraordinary. The world is looking at us. I had the privilege to participate in 3 video conferences, 2 with all the health ministers of the whole world, which was organized by WHO, one with the health ministers of the Southeast Asia region, and in one WHO had in fact given opportunity to India to present its case before the whole world, and WHO at the regional or at the headquarter level has officially appreciated the proactive and the preemptive approach of India, and is satisfied with how we are handling COVID and creating an example worth emulating. So I am confident that the country right now needs your able leadership and your proactive approach towards. We are not going to, after this I am not going to send you any written instructions, but I would love to learn from you through Arun Singhal ji what is the proactive thing that you are now doing to see that all hotspots in the vicinity of your places, and when I say vicinity, it is not some 2, 3, 4 kilometers around you, but it's your state or maybe 1 or 2 states that you can think about, whether it is protecting the unaffected areas or whether it is getting rid of the disease in the red zones. So with these few words, I would love to say thank you to all of you and place on record my appreciation for the good work that you are doing. You have listed your potential also. Keep that potential ready, and if there is a scope in improving that potential, God forbid if what the experts are saying comes true, then we should have the preparations also. So thank you so much. We will keep in touch, and I would look forward to some 10-20 good names from you with their readily available phone numbers who can. You see, I will tell you, I will give you an example. Yesterday at 1 o'clock in the night, somebody from Mumbai wrote on our COVID Seva. Our people work 24 hours on this, almost 24 hours. Somebody from Mumbai wrote on the COVID Seva that there is a group of 400 people who are in a quarantine center in Mumbai who have not been served food and they are suffering. So the COVID Seva from our ministry, we just wrote a tweet and tagged it to the police commissioner of Mumbai. And within, you see, we have to appreciate the sensitivity and the sincerity of the people at many places. Within 10 minutes, we got a call from the police commissioner of Mumbai late in the night at 1:30, and he said, I am so sorry that it's happening. He just assigned the job to a sub-inspector of police who was sent to that place, and for next 45 minutes they were reporting to us that how the food is being served and how the things are being taken care of, and the whole operation finished at 3 o'clock, and the a person of the level of police commissioner just responding on a tweet. And that is how we respond on these tweets, because a lot of people these days, when they see problems, they just put things on the Twitter. And there are people who are weeping, there are people who are crying, there are people who are suffering, and their suffering is like, when you hear that, it's not a big rocket science that you need. They are being thrown away from hospitals, they are suffering because of food. There are many people who have written to us that on the COVID Seva itself, if there is anybody who is deprived of food anywhere, you just tag it to us. Wherever we are, we will make arrangements for the food and all. So there are a lot of people helping the cause also. So this is for which I want 10-15 of our people. Maybe any institution out of you can give me 2 numbers. And I'm sure it's not like every time they are being disturbed, but when we want a good quality answer to a question posed to us on the Twitter Seva by any Indian, we want a good quality answer to go. And wherever we don't have a good quality answer, we may seek your advice or help. That's the only thing that is needed for this. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Wish you all good luck, and we'll keep, I think, after the whole COVID thing is over, I'll have a quick round of all the AIIMS which I have not visited till now, and then we catch up on the other things also. Thank you so much.
सर, आज आपने एम्स के जितने भी हमारे रीजनल एम्स हैं, दिल्ली एम्स हैं, उनके अधिकारियों के साथ एक वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस करके उनसे बातचीत की, साथ में जिग्मे पौंडीचेरी और पीजीआई चंडीगढ़ के साथ अधिकारियों से बात किया। तो ऐसे में कोरोना वायरस को देखते हुए आपने किन किन बातों पर ध्यान दिया है?
देखिए, आज मैंने अभी जो 10 हमारे टॉप इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं कंट्री में मेडिकल एजुकेशन देने वाले, जिसमें एम्स न्यू दिल्ली है, एम्स जोधपुर है, एम्स रायपुर है, एम्स ऋषिकेश है, एम्स भुवनेश्वर है, एम्स पटना है, एम्स भोपाल है, एम्स नागपुर है, और इसी तरह से जो जिपमेर पुडुचेरी है, और साथ में जो हमारा पीजीआई चंडीगढ़ है। अभी मैंने आज इन 4 इंस्टीट्यूशंस के डायरेक्टर्स के साथ और उनके सहयोगियों के साथ वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस करके उनके सामने एक तो वहाँ पर जो कोविड के लिए उन्होंने तैयारियाँ की हैं, बेड्स के मामले में, लेबॉर्ट्री टेस्टिंग के मामले में, पेशेंट्स की केयर के मामले में, और इसके साथ साथ भविष्य में भगवान ना करे तकलीफ़ ज़्यादा हो जाए देश में, तो उस समय के लिए उनकी क्या क्या तैयारियां हैं, एक तो उसका सारा रिव्यू किया है। उनको अगर किसी और चीज़ की भारत सरकार की तरफ से आवश्यकता है तो उसके बारे में भी उनसे हमने पता किया है। मान लीजिए उनको और वेंटिलेटर्स चाहिए और उनको कोई पीपीई किट्स वगैरह चाहिए, लेकिन मुझे खुशी है कि सबने मोटे तौर पर ये कहा कि उनके पास सब कुछ पर्याप्त मात्रा में है, लेकिन हमने उन्हें विश्वास दिलाया कि आपको जो कुछ भी चाहिए वो आप लीजिए। हमने उनको ये बताया कि जो कोविड है, अब ये जिस प्रकार से देश में आया है, भारत सरकार ने पहले ही दिन से प्रयास किया है और अब सारे देश में बीमारी कहाँ कहाँ पर है उसकी हमको संपूर्ण जानकारी है। जैसा मैं लगातार बता रहा हूँ, मैंने उनके साथ भी शेयर किया है कि भाई अभी लगभग 300 डिस्ट्रिक्ट तो ऐसे हैं देश में जो एकदम अनअफेक्टेड जैसे है, 300 के करीब ही ऐसे हैं जो नॉन हॉटस्पॉट डिस्ट्रिक्ट हैं, और लगभग 130 के आसपास ऐसे हैं जो हॉटस्पॉट्स हैं। तो हमने एम्स के डायरेक्टर्स को 2 बातें कही हैं प्रमुख रूप से कि एक तो आप सब प्रोएक्टिवली अपने अपने स्टेट्स में ऐसी लीडरशिप दीजिए जिसमें कि आपको कोई इंतज़ार ना करना पड़े किसी इंस्ट्रक्शन का, आप कूद जाइए इस बीमारी को अब जड़ से समाप्त करने की दिशा में। जो भी प्रयास हो रहे हैं उसमें फील्ड में जितने काम हो रहे हैं वो रैपिड रिस्पांस टीम्स के द्वारा हो रहे हैं, सर्वेलेंस ऑफिसर्स के द्वारा हो रहे हैं, और उसके साथ साथ आप वहाँ आसपास के मेडिकल कॉलेजेस के साथ मिलकर भी उनको भी लीडरशिप दें। और दूसरा जो हमने उन्हें कहा है कि अगर आप सब लोग लग जाएंगे तो ये समस्या का समाधान बहुत जल्दी हो जाएगा और ज़्यादा हमारे को इसमें सहयोग मिलेगा। दूसरी बात हमने उनको ये कही है कि जो अभी इस बीमारी के साथ एक स्टिग्मा लग गया है, एक स्टिग्मा है जो डॉक्टरों के संदर्भ में लग गया है कि डॉक्टरों को भी लोग इस प्रकार से स्टिग्मेटाइज कर रहे हैं और ऑस्ट्रेसाइज कर रहे हैं, उसकी तो डॉक्टर लोग परवाह नहीं कर रहे हैं, सारे सेवा में लगे हैं। लेकिन जो स्टिग्मा मरीज़ के साथ लग गया है कि जो कोविड का सस्पेक्टेड मरीज़ है उसको लोग दूसरी निगाह से देखने लगे हैं, उसमें अगर एम्स जैसी इंस्टीट्यूशंस और एम्स जैसे जो डॉक्टर हैं ये अगर समाज के सामने लीडरशिप प्रोवाइड करेंगे, ये कोई बात को लोगों को बताएंगे, तो उसको समाज ज़्यादा गंभीरता से समझेगा। क्योंकि बीमारी तो हम कंट्रोल कर लेंगे, आज नहीं तो कल कर लेंगे, लेकिन अगर ये स्टिग्मा बना रहा, क्योंकि वायरस तो बना रहता है, नए नए वायरस आते हैं और अपना थोड़े दिन के लिए लोगों को तकलीफ़ दे के फिर वो सोसाइटी में कभी कभी कहीं कहीं थोड़ी थोड़ी तकलीफ़ देते हैं, जैसे बाकी सारे वायरस भी हैं। आप जानती हैं कि वायरस तो 2 ही हैं जो दुनिया से समाप्त हुए हैं आने के बाद, एक स्मॉल पॉक्स का वायरस है, एक पोलियो का वायरस है। बाकी तो चाहे वो स्वाइन फ्लू हो, चाहे वो इबोला हो, चाहे वो कोई H1N1 हो या कोई सार्स आया, सब थोड़ा थोड़ा मात्रा में रहते हैं सोसाइटी के अंदर। इसी तरह से शायद कोविड भी थोड़ा बहुत लोगों को बाद में भी प्रभावित कर सकता है।
आपने जिक्र किया था कि लोगों के अंदर बहुत स्टिग्मा था, जब देश से पोलियो खत्म हुआ तो वही स्टिग्मा लोगों,
देखिए वो भी लगातार प्रयास से लोगों को बहुत गलत फहमियाँ हो गई थी वायरस के बारे में, है? और आपको हमें सबको याद है कि किस प्रकार से विशेष रूप से उत्तर प्रदेश में और बिहार में उस ज़माने में पोलियो के बारे में जो गलत फहमियाँ लोगों में समाज में हो गई थी, उनको दूर करने में सारे समाज ने ही मिलकर उन गलत फहमियों को दूर किया, और उसके अंदर फील्ड के अंदर डॉक्टरों ने लीडरशिप प्रोवाइड की। हम वही काम हमने आज एम्स के लोगों को कहा है कि आप अपनी जिम्मेदारी उस एम्स इंस्टीट्यूशन के अंदर मत समझिए, आप इसको प्रोएक्टिवली आगे काम करिए। अभी हमने जो अपनी लैब्स की कैपेसिटी बढ़ाई, तो हमने उनको जिम्मेदारी दी थी, तो सारे मेडिकल कॉलेजेस को संपर्क करके उन्होंने बहुत सारी जगहों पर नई टेस्टिंग फैसिलिटीज़ क्रिएट की। अब हमें आने वाले समय के अंदर 31 मई तक 1 लाख टेस्ट रोज़ करने के लिए फैसिलिटीज़ को और फर्दर एक्सपेंशन करना है। उसके अंदर भी जो है उन लोगों को रोल अदा करना होगा, और ज़्यादा रोल अदा करना होगा अपने क्षेत्र के मेडिकल कॉलेज से संपर्क करने में। तो आज उनके साथ हमने शेयर किया है कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं और क्या हमारी उनके साथ अपेक्षा है। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि एम्स के हमारे जब डॉक्टर लोग फील्ड में और ज़्यादा प्रोएक्टिवली अपनी प्रेजेंस को दिखाएंगे, तो कोविड के खिलाफ जंग में हमें और जल्दी सफलता मिलेगी।
सर एक सवाल, जैसे आपने एम्स के डॉक्टरों के साथ बात किया और भी मेडिकल इंस्टीट्यूशन के डॉक्टरों को भी कोविड के केसेस सामने पाए जा रहे हैं, तो उनको भी अगर हमें सॉलिड प्रोटेक्शन देना है तो उसके लिए क्या?
देखिए डॉक्टरों के लिए तो देखिए, अब डॉक्टर लोग तो खुद तो समझते हैं ना, वो तो ऐसा नहीं कि डॉक्टर लोगों को कुछ ज़्यादा समझाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। पूरी सरकार उनके साथ है। उनकी जो इतना कोरोना वॉरियर्स की तरह वो काम कर रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने सारे देश को अपील करके सारे देश उनको नतमस्तक होकर अभिनंदन कर रहा है। और अगर थोड़ा सा एक बहुत मामूली परसेंटेज लोग अगर उनके साथ दुर्व्यवहार कर भी रहे थे, गिने चुने उंगलियों पर गिने चुने ऐसे केसेस देश में हुए थे, लेकिन हम लोगों ने वो भी बर्दाश्त नहीं किए। और आपने देखा कि हमने इंडियन एपिडेमिक एक्ट में अमेंडमेंट किया और 7 साल तक की सज़ा उसके ऊपर जो कोई हरेसमेंट भी करने की कोशिश करेगा और उसको जो इंस्पेक्टर लेवल का व्यक्ति इन्वेस्टिगेट करेगा 1 महीने में और 1 साल में सज़ा हो जाएगी। तो ये सारी चीज़ें हमने की हैं।